It's Abby with More Seniors. I never intended to make this video. I don't even know what we're really going to talk about or where this is going to go. But hi, welcome to the new subscribers. This is just going to be a willy-nilly one. Here we go. For the first time ever, I watched all the Hunger Games movies. I think most of my commentaries on TikTok or Instagram or somewhere, I think TikTok, but let's talk about that wild ride. Let's talk about the insanity of that. Now, this all started because I made the mistake of telling an anecdote on TikTok about why I didn't get into the Hunger Games. And long story short, our school, when you were in our high school from 9th to 12th grade, they did this thing called One Book, One School. And we all had to read the Hunger Games to, I don't know, like build camaraderie. There was no grade. You just turned it into whoever. Like you had to write a paper on it, but we all had to read it so we all had something in common and like all, dumb shit that doesn't work. And I was at that age where hanging out in a garage was a much more important priority than reading that shit. And when I realized what it was about, I was like, well, I've read The Running Man, and I've seen The Running Man, so I'm going to write a paper on The Running Man. And then I got my paper back, and it wasn't worth a grade, and I was getting heavily complimented on it, and I said, I didn't read it. I read The Running Man. And I wasn't saying that this series was bad, and I applaud anything that gets young people reading. I think reading is very important, but so if this is your thing, that's fine. And I do think it's a good story, and I did like the characters, but let's be honest here. It's like The Running Man, and there are some things in the Hunger Games that shocked me. But we'll start. The first one's the best. The second one I had a great time watching. The third one is awful. It's just pointing and walking and staring at stuff, and you cannot change my mind. Gale sucks. Why are you here? You're not qualified for shit. Why are you here? Fourth one, I'm like, why didn't you stretch out more of this stuff from the last 35 minutes? Because the first hour, you had us walking around again, and Gale's here, and it sucks. The last 35 minutes, so much interesting stuff happened, and I was like, I feel like you could have stretched this out longer, but we didn't, and it just feels odd. It feels strange. We're not there yet. Let's stick to The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games, the first one, is fundamentally a good movie. I think it's well done. I think all of these movies have a very distinct look that's very pretty. I don't understand, and I've been saying this for years, they do it in everything. All dystopian, end-of-the-world things, everybody looks like they shop at Old Navy. Why does everybody look like they shop at Old Navy? And it's always nothing against Old Navy, but every time, for a long time, I've thought this for over a decade. The Walking Dead, the Hunger Games, they all look like they shop at Old Navy. I don't understand it. I don't know if Old Navy has a secret connect there. I don't know what's going on, but I think we opened the movie with Gale fucking up her hunting, which I'm like, I hate you already. In the first one, we meet Katniss. Gale sucks. He's making noises while she hunts. He's just a jackass. He reminds me of somebody I'd want to punch in the mouth when I was in high school. That's what Gale reminds me of. Find out all about their horrible living situation, their horrible government, and we find out that once a year we gotta send the kids to the reaping. Now, it is a bit of a snooze until we get to the reaping, and it doesn't take place for a minute. And not in the willy-nilly way people use it now as slang. This truly is iconic. When she volunteers as tribute for her sister, it's iconic. That whole thing is iconic. And the acting in all of these is great.
I volunteer as tribute. I believe we have a volunteer.
And that's the thing, too. When book fans get angry at things, and I've gotten angry at things, too. You're talking to a Game of Thrones fan. So don't even talk to me. Don't even talk to me about being upset, okay? So, of course, we want to see everything from a book we love, but you can't do that because books and movies are fundamentally different mediums, and they tell stories differently. You don't and shouldn't have to come into a movie with preconceived information. You should be able to come in and watch an adaptation. I'm not talking about the sequel or the third one. I'm talking the first adaptation, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Hunger Games. You should be able to come into those things not knowing nothing and learning about all these things and learning about these characters. And I felt like she was kind of a dick to her mom off rip, and people were saying like, oh, well, her mom this. And I was like, well, they didn't show me that in the movie. They didn't say that in the movie. So What do you want me to do? I want this cat to have a spinoff. And let's say this really quick. After watching these, oh my God, you had Haymitch as a character. You had Woody Harrelson as a character. And you guys said, we're not going to use that really cool character. We're not going to use the coolest character we have to do a spinoff. Let's do a prequel about the evil dictator. And I love Donald Sutherland. My grandma took a picture with him. She said he was very nice. So I love Donald Sutherland, but President Snow, why is he getting a prequel? Why wasn't it Haymitch? You literally had the coolest character right here, and I'm like, excuse me? Is nobody in these rooms to raise their hand and go, I don't think that's... You have Haymitch right there. Like, you have the coolest character to make a spinoff about what? Still, you can have your other spinoff, but when it comes to a movie, what are you doing? You have this guy back here. This is stupid. This is stupidity. Name gets pulled. Meet PETA. MVP. Golden Boy. He's the best. They do things very well, like when she hugs her sister goodbye and we're gone. The government takes you and you're gone. We're off. We're on this train. Let's go. I really love, even though I don't know her name, the character who pulled their names, Effie or Eddie or whatever, the one who gets them all ready and has colorful hair and crap. We meet Woody Harrelson's character, and the cast for these gets absolutely insane, out of control. Couldn't really believe it. But we meet Woody Harrelson's character. He's the only other winner that came from their district, and so he gets to be their mentor. But the whole time he kind of knows, like, you're probably going to die, so I'm not going to get attached to you, but then realizes, oh, we have a shot here. Then Lenny Kravitz shows up. Lenny Kravitz is there, and that's pretty awesome. It's always good when Lenny's there. I felt like at points they make it so, like, Katniss is kind of unlikable. But I think they wanted that, which I don't mind, where it's like, this girl doesn't always have to be smiling and waving and you have to like her type deal. But it's because of Woody Harrelson that they even function, like, at all. But that's also part of the game. He's playing the game with the sponsors and things like that. I get that. But I would take a spinoff of literally Woody Harrelson doing that at the same time period as the Hunger Games that we saw. I would literally take that movie. I would. And of, like, Woody Harrelson making deals and making moves, and drinking, I would watch that 100%. It doesn't even have to be a prequel or a sequel. It could literally be, where was Haymitch when he wasn't on screen the last time we watched this series? I would watch that movie. We have the whole training thing. We meet all the other candidates. We get to see all these other kids that were chosen from these other districts. And let me just say this, too. Part of the things I'm going to say today, I don't want anybody to think I'm an insane person. I'm just very competitive. But it's absolute bullshit to even have a 12-year-old there. I get what you're trying to say because it's so heavy-handed, but that's bullshit. That's not even sportsmanlike. That's bullshit. But I also get it. You're proving a point. It's not the games. It's what they're saying. I'm fully aware of what they're doing with the story and bullshit like that. But as a person, I'm like, bullshit. It's not even fair. Now, the first one does suffer from dilly-dallying, but not as much as the other ones. What both Catching Fire and Hunger Games do masterfully, though, is overwhelming you and sensory overload and anxious and anxiety-ridden and panic-filled when she goes up into the games, into the arena. They do that so well, and it starts way before she's in the tube in both of them. It's when she's being pushed and dressed and moved, and you have 10 seconds, and then it's really, really well done in both of them. But in the first one, it does one of my favorite things, and if you've been over here for a long, long time, you've heard me say this, because I've talked about it in a couple video games, a couple movies, a couple TV shows, but if it's done well, which is sometimes the absence of sound is louder than having sound or music itself, and when the games kick off and people are getting slaughtered at the cornucopia and she can't hear stuff, it's almost like a flashbang went off. That is so well done. And really it brings you back into it. Because I was really like, I'm getting bored. Okay, I'm back. I'm in on this. We got everybody going off in their little groups. And then they're really pissed at Katniss over stuff she did when she trained. Here's where they lost me when I was younger, too. I remember when I watched the movie for the first time, and I was like, Tracker Jacker, that sounds like the laziest shit I've ever heard. I just didn't understand why it was like, you can still do all the crazy stuff with controlling the environment. You can still do anything. You can use smoke, though. You can use fire. You can use basic shit that will fuck with humans. You don't need to do this. the game makers are like the jigsaws of Panem. Like, what are you doing? Like, there were way easier way to take out humans or make them go a direction you want them to go. We don't need tracker jacker backer bee bites, and they make your head swell up, and you got to lay down for an hour and a half, and you get amnesia for a week. Like, it just becomes kerfuffle. That's my one big knock against it. It's like, stop saying stupid words. Oh, Stanley Tucci showing up as the announcer is a delight in each movie. Oh, PETA painted like a tree. I couldn't remember if that was a fake thing or if that really happened, and then I was like, oh no, here we are. Oh, I will say Rue's death that's another time when there's an absence of music and sound. Is after Rue passes, she throws her bow and arrow and all that, and she's freaking out, and that is another place it's done really well at. But her death is done really well, going right into the riots happening in the districts now, and people are like, we don't like this, and going off, and cinematically that's done really, really well, and I really like that, and I want to give it credit for that. But after Rue's death is when she links up with PETA, and here's where I would get pissed again, is when all of a sudden announcers are going on the mic saying, oh, now there can be 2 winners, but you both have to have your sneakers on, and you both have to be from the same district, and you both have to be left-handed, and I'm like, this is bullshit. This is pissing me off. I understand what's going on, and I understand what they're doing. I'm not stupid, but as a person, I'm like, bullshit. Here's where these movies make a massive turn into... We were watching a Gladiator thing a minute ago with children, and now it's just a ton of PR and marketing meetings. That's all it is for like 3 movies. Because PETA and Katniss end up doing this pretending to fall in love thing, Romeo and Juliet thing, so the sponsors and the people love them. Then we get to the ending, and it's the crazies and just them two. I don't know if they ever... I couldn't tell if they wanted me to sympathize with Bjorn Ironside, but I didn't. And I was like, take this guy's head off immediately. But there's always a cop-out, too, kind of... Not a cop-out, but yeah, a cop-out, where it was like, besides the guy with Rue, like, it was always, yeah, she threw the tracker jackers, or she hit him with a bow and arrow, but then they fell into the dogs, or this is what actually killed them. And I'm like, I get what you're doing, but come on, man. No, his head, I would not have cared what he was saying. Goodbye. Your head's gone. And then we're down to just her and PETA. Because they changed the rules again. They're like, let's go with 1. And we don't want there to be 2 winners on. So they're like, okay, fine, we'll kill ourselves. And then everybody's like, stop the games. These are the 2 winners. So then they both get to live. And I get it. I understood it. But then after this, and Catching Fire was an absolute blast to watch. I don't know what was going on there, but I was having fun. Katniss is not only like a reluctant hero, but she is constantly, and I don't know if she's like this in the books, but in the movies, she is constantly bending over for the government. She is constantly going, I don't want anything to do with revolution. I don't want anything to do with nothing whatsoever. I will do whatever you ask. It's all the people around her that are moving her into these places, starting off with Lenny Kravitz. They got her out here making it look like she's doing a revolution when at first she's not. She's not. She's like, I will literally do anything you ask. Just please don't hurt my family and friends. That's literally, she wants nothing to do with revolution. Gale is all about it. He looks so geeked once she starts speaking about revolution. Other than that, I think he's being a manipulator. But she did not give a shit. I think that was part of the problem for me, where I was like, it's these other people that are doing it, and she doesn't know. And I understand not knowing for parts of it, and like, you could argue Harry Potter and things like that, but I'm like, you're literally making her a revolutionary symbol, and she doesn't know it. And in fact, she's fighting against it. Oh my God, Catching Fire. Catching Fire was a delight. Catching Fire was an absolute delight. How crazy. Philip Seymour Hoffman walked in. Crazy. Nuts. Insane. Couldn't believe he was there. But I also realized a lot of the padding in this, in the next 3, is Philip Seymour Hoffman and Donald Sutherland talking in rooms and explaining everything to us like we're stupid little babies. And that upsets me, because then I'm like, teens aren't dumb, and young people aren't dumb. You don't need to talk dumb to them, and you don't need to spoon feed them dialogue and tell them exactly what's going on like a dumb little baby. You can show us with pictures on a moving screen called a movie. We don't need all this. But because it's Donald Sutherland and Philip Seymour Hoffman talking, I feel like we don't get mad at it, and we're like, I don't think it's bad. We've just been here a really long time. And that goes on a lot. Like I said, books and movies are not the same medium. That might have worked in a book. It doesn't work in a movie. Even if it is Philip Seymour Hoffman and Donald Sutherland, eventually we're going, move it. Pick up the pace. But we got new games in Catching Fire. And we're bringing back all the original victors. And Haymitch gets picked. Oh, like, imagine if Haymitch would have been in the games with Katniss instead of Peeta. It would have been epic. But Peeta is our golden boy. We don't talk smack about him. But since there's only the couple winners from 12, they already know it's going to be Katniss for the female side, and then it's between Peeta and Haymitch gets picked, Peeta volunteers, we're off to this against other ones. And then there's the crazies that like have sharpened teeth, and I don't know why half these people kept up on the skills that they did. Like, why would you keep up with that after doing it once? Did you think this was going to happen again, or what? Or once again, because some of you were in on this plot, even the other ones that weren't on their side were trained. Does everybody know what's going on except for Katniss? That's kind of how I felt. Like, because why are you all, like, really good at spear throwing still? Like, Haymitch isn't, because I doubt he thought this would be a thing going on. Jenna Malone's a crazy who's pretty great. Oh, and then Jeffrey Wright shows up. I was shocked by Jeffrey Wright. Oh my god, he's there. We meet Finnick and his trident, which I want the spin-off just on why do you fight with a trident. That is such an obscure, specific skill set and weapon. Why? Why a trident? That's crazy to me. That really stuck with me. And he brings it. It shows back up in Mockingjay part. I almost said part 4. Part 2. It's a thing. Like, but that's so specific, and I just want to know. I think that should have got a spin-off, or the cat, or your coolest character that you have, Woody Harrelson, but we didn't do any of those. I don't know. So we're back in the games, and we're back to smoky smog that can kill us, and baboons that are fighting us, and it gets absolutely fucking insane. This one gets absolutely fucking crazy. Spinning islands, blood rain, insanity, things I did not expect, craziness. That's what was going on in Catching Fire, and I loved every moment of it. Oh my god, and then I was not expecting this. Katniss to Benjamin Franklin the fucking lightning to the tree, like, and blow out the sky. But somebody left a really great TikTok comment and said, yeah, she's a revolutionary emulating another famous revolutionary. And I was like, oh shit. But she straight up Ben Franklin that shit, and I was like, okay, here we go. But when it started falling, it was like a real arena. And then she got out of it. And we find out, like, these people have been working on this side the whole time, and it's Dumbledore's army, and over here, those were the really bad guys that were in it, and it was all a plan to get Katniss out, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is in on it. There's a whole lot going on. There's a whole lot of stuff going on. Jeffrey Wright makes it, so that's all that matters, and Peeta. But, yeah, they want to bust it wide open, get Katniss out, and then flee to District 13. And when we get out of that bubble, it is like, whoa, this is a whole different movie. And it only goes on for like 5 more minutes, but it felt like a whole other ass movie. I was like, what? Oh my god, what's going on? We're over the games? We're done with the games? Oh my god, this was my other favorite thing. I just remembered, I'm sorry. Jabberjay? I can't. Like, it just sounds absurd. You can just say, like, anything. Jabberjay. That's a word that I heard, and oh my god. But we get her out. Feels like a totally different movie. Find out it was all a plot. And then it ends with her staring at the camera. And we go into Mockingjay Part 1, right? And Mahershala Ali walks in. And I am completely taken back by that. Totally shocked. It took me half a movie to realize Mahershala Ali is here. And you are so goddamn lucky you had him in Part 2. Because he was carrying that walking around. Now, this is what I mean. It's a full-blown movie about PR campaigns. It's like, you're gonna be a symbol and a mascot, so we need you to look and act a certain way. I liked it. I didn't not like people get mad when I say that, but I'm like, it's just like a marketing meeting, but in the middle of a apocalypse war. Wait, Catching Fire is the one where they beat up Lenny Kravitz before she goes into the games, right? Yeah, Lenny gets it, because he was literally making moves without her even knowing it, and making her set up to be a symbol and didn't even know it without her consent. And like I said, Gale is not qualified. In the beginning of Mockingjay Part 1, they're like, oh yeah, you can go with her on this mission, and you can go with her to do these things, and you can go on a Navy SEAL mission later. Like, what? He doesn't have this skill set. What are you talking about? And then by Mockingjay Part 2, he's like an elite strategic war master. Like, what are you talking about? This man was a coal miner most of his life. He's a teenager. Why are you talking at this table? Essentially, this entire movie is going, we gotta get her to say a speech correctly, and she won't say it unless it's from the heart, so let's take her to her old home and show her how it's rubble now, and her and Gale go look at the rubble together, and they stare at the rubble for a long time, and we meet the film crew with Marjorie Tyrell and Freak the Mighty that are going to film all the promo and the propaganda. And this whole movie, we get really upset at the government being mean and doing awful things, and then acting surprised about those awful things, which confused me a bit. Didn't understand that. I'm like, why do we keep getting shocked by them doing awful things? We were all... Does anybody remember the child fighting pits a movie ago? Like, where have you been? We find out that that 12 has been obliterated, that barely anybody survived it, but Gale did, thank goodness. And then she goes to another district, sees a hospital, they blow that up. We're supposed to get really upset. It turns into Call of Duty for a minute. Then we go back to walking around and staring at stuff. And I think this is the one they might drop the song in, but I felt like it was forced where it was at. I was like, where'd this come from? Mockingjay Part 1 is literally walking and staring the movie. And when Gale had that stupid monologue about that buck, it's never been hunted before, it doesn't know how to be scared. What the shit are you talking about? Everything has a natural enemy. There's a carnivore around somewhere. It's been hunted. Like, stop talking stupid. Stop talking absurd. I'm just saying, when you see this lineup, and it's Julianne Moore, Woody Harrelson, Mahershala Ali, Philip Seymour Hoffman, and then Liam Hemsworth playing Gale in the middle of all that, you're like, why the shit are you here? It does not help the why are you here situation with Gale. What even happened at the end of Mockingjay Part 1? Oh! When Mahershala bashes PETA over the head, and then we have PETA, who's stuck in the Capitol, and they have him doing propaganda for them, and he's blatantly being harmed and blatantly being forced to do this, and the whole time Gale's like, what a little bitch, and I'm like, you're a bitch. Who would believe this man is not being... And then, like a hero, he is the one who's like, Katniss, they're coming, and defies orders and gets messed up for it. But then they Manchurian candidated him. Oh my god, that was nuts. Whatever. Remember, I said there was going to be a Navy SEAL mission? Well, eventually that happens, and Gale and Mahershala, don't know why you want them on your team, Mahershala, go and they get PETA and a couple of the other people out of the Capitol. And they find out, oh no, the government let us leave. Why did they let us leave? And then Katniss is like, oh my god, PETA. And I'm like, oh my god, PETA. Love you. Glad to have you back, golden boy. Gale sucks. And nope, he tries to murder Katniss. If you don't know what Manchurian Candidate is, Winter Soldier. They programmed him. And then we find out it was like Tracker Jacker Venom or something, but they programmed him to off Katniss when he saw her. But then, as he's choking her, Mahershala comes up and bashes him over the head with a fucking frying pan, and it is fantastic. It is one of my favorite scenes I think I've ever seen in anything ever. But on everything, I'm not even joking when I say this, that's where Mockingjay Part 1 should have ended. Mockingjay Part 1 should have ended right there when Mahershala took a frying pan to PETA's head and it went black, and then start the next movie with everything all crazy going, what's happening? Why did PETA attack her? Oh my god, like, that's how it should have ended, and then started up like that. But we didn't do that. We didn't do that because we needed to be spoon-fed the information that maybe this new leader lady is the same as Snow because she's talking like a dictator and everybody's pretending like they don't hear it. I think Prim got a what do you call it, promotion at work, which was really cool. Good for her. And the cat made it, which is the most important part. Mockingjay Part 1, I can't believe they even Like, really, what happened in that? They walked around and they stared at stuff. They walked around and they stared and they pointed at stuff and got sad. And then what happened? We get to Mockingjay Part 2. And these are just my thoughts, I guess. And like I said, for an hour, we are walking and staring and pointing at stuff, okay? PETA has a full-blown Theon Greyjoy Reek situation going on, and you're handing him a firearm. Even when they drop PETA off, Mahershala Ali's like, what are you doing? Who are you? And they don't know who's getting out of the car yet, and they just let him walk up like Michael Myers. Like, some of these things were just not done correctly. And now we're walking through the booby-trapped city. So now all this crazy shit is happening in the booby-trapped city. And oh my god, I'll tell you what Mockingjay Part 2 was. The first half of Mockingjay Part 2 was opening up blueprints and staring and pointing at them. And then it was opening up maps and staring and pointing at them. God damn, so much map and blueprint pointing going on here. And it was constantly like, we can't go there, so we got to go through District 2. We can't do that, so we got to go this way, and we got to go up here, and then we need to get a hoverboard. And after we do that, we need to do this and find something yellow, make sure we cross the bridge correctly. Like, I understand that that's part of a journey, but it just felt like chaos. And we still have the PR and the marketing team going hard. Like, that's still a major thing. And then we see a tiger lady, which was insane. That was nuts. With her bunker that they were hiding in. That was wild. I think they wanted the fish people, the mutts, to hit harder. But that literally felt like that took an hour and a half. Walking around in those pipes here in Basilisk Talk, that felt like it went on for an hour and a goddamn half. So it took away anything scary or jump outy or anything like that. And that's when we lost Finnick with the trident, but he went out like a boss, so it was okay. It's hit a point where they're like, we don't care, we'll just walk up to the Capitol. And Katniss and Gale are walking right up to the Capitol because they're claiming they're kind of pulling the Cersei Lannister, where they're using the mercy against them, or as a weakness, and going, yeah, let all your women and children in here, we'll keep them safe. We have food, we have water, it's safe, we have this, we have medical stuff, come here. Thinking that, our enemy won't bomb us if we have all this innocence here. And I will say this, the flip-flop with Snow telling her, like, I'm not dumb enough to do that. I will do the Hunger Games, but do you think I'm dumb enough to do that? I thought that was well done, but I did think that whole sequence leading up to that bombing was done very well. And at first I was like, you're really going to off Prim, her main motivation that started the whole series? That's kind of crazy. But then I realized her death, in a way, you could say, is now a new motivation. Not only is Katniss reluctant, I don't think she truly is like, I want to be in the revolution until after we lose Prim, then she actually cares. But prior to that, it was like, willy-nilly, who cares? And I don't know, I think it's a little off-putting. It's also not her fault, because it's all these people around her not telling her shit. Prim gets blown to smithereens. What's going on? And like I thought, I was like, oh, they're trying to look good. They're dropping off care packages. And then it's a bomb. And oh my God, was that sad. And that was done and shot, and the feelings for that that hit really hard and was done really well, the whole bombing scene. Then it's like an Uno reverse card. And the movie feels like we hit the brakes and made a U-turn. And I liked it, and I liked what was happening, but I was like, I feel like we could have had more of this. I feel like we're speeding through this part. We talk to Snow. We find out Julianne Moore's a scumbag. Now Katniss knows it's still the same thing, even just under a different name. And so after she talks to Snow, just has a little chit-chat with him, she goes to some meeting where the other victors who have survived the Hunger Games that are still alive, like Jeffrey Wright, he made it, and PETA, and Jenna Malone. I don't exactly know why Finnick's wife got to sit on the council, but whatever. Maybe she was a champion. I don't know, but it was odd. I didn't know why she was there. Oh, and Woody Harrelson, of course. But Julianne Moore proposes, hey, even though we just took over, and even though we're going to schedule elections, that's what all dictators say, we'll schedule the election, we'll plan it. Like, no, you won't. You're a dictator. She's like, just because we don't want to break tradition. It's kind of like when Daenerys opens the fighting pits back up in Marine. And she's like, I really don't want to do this, but they're all like, this is part of our tradition. Like, this is part of what we do. And that's kind of the mask that Julianne Moore's character hides behind. Well, we can't just get rid of it overnight, and we hold a symbolic one, but with all children from the Capitol. And, of course, Katniss is bothered by this, but has other plans, and she's like, yep, as long as I get to execute Snow. And we're pointing and we're staring at each other way too long before speaking dialogue. This is iconic in its own right. Her walking up with the people behind her with her bow and arrow to Snow tied up at the post. I didn't know that she was going to shoot Julianne Moore right in the chest. But I thought that was pretty sick. I wasn't opposed to killing her. It was just more of saying it might be under a different name and call itself something else, but the fact of the matter is it was the same old trying to seize power. And I did like that. But I thought they were trying to say by her not killing Snow, like she was above them, like going to watch somebody get murdered in the courtyard was barbaric, but we kind of did do that anyway. And I will give it credit for this. Every single one of them really went there with showing stuff. And I give this teen genre, young adult series credit for that. Like Prisoners of War getting taken out and getting executed, actually showing those things. Oh my God, the tree climbers, that was insane. But I can't, whatever that one was in, that one was my favorite. But I give it a lot of credit for that. And I give it a lot of credit for showing a lot of the imagery it did actually go there and show in a young adult thing. I will say that. Oh, we found out Gale was a scumbag the whole time. Asshole. Found out he was the worst the whole time. I mean, these went on for way too long, but I did like watching it. But then when we get to the very end, and it's Katniss and Peeta and their little family, that was stinking adorable. I really loved that. There are things that I can really... it's not like these are awful, god-awful movies. I'm just saying exactly what I was feeling watching them. But here's another thing I was thinking after it ended. I'm like, if they really would have announced, like, we're going to have another Hunger Games, wouldn't the people have gone apeshit? Wouldn't people have gone crazy? I don't know. There's a lot of questions I think I have. But I didn't get ready to do this or anything. These are just my thoughts after finishing these. What? I don't know how I'm supposed to feel. I know I'm Team Peeta. I can't believe they're wasting Woody Harrelson this way. Maybe I'll go see this new one. And then we can talk about how great President Snow is or some shit. Or how they say his dad... Please don't tell me they say, like, his dad's mean. What's it called for real? Somebody leave the actual name of the movie down in the title. Or down in the comments. Somebody tell me the title of this movie. But I'm Abby with Motor City Nerds. Like, share, comment, subscribe. I don't know. I couldn't believe this cast. This cast was outstanding. Mahershala Ali hitting Peeta with a frying pan, man. That was top tier. What was going on a lot of the time? And was there a Gale Peeta beef? I want to know if there was a Gale Peeta beef like Edward and Jacob.